Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by the Union Capital Corporation and Natels Air Conditioning and Heating, a proud sponsor of the St. Jude Dream Home.
Good evening, New Orleans, and welcome. You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher, and over the next hour, we're going to talk a lot about the NBA. We'll touch on some Saints as well, but it is All-Star Weekend here in the Crescent City. And, of course, we're at the mythical halfway point for the New Orleans Pelicans. And we got some great guests for you. Joining me in just a couple minutes will be Michael McNamara of the very great website, Bourbon Street Shots. If you are looking to be able to keep up with what's happening with Pelican basketball, it is a go-to website for anybody that's kind of a basketball geek or just enjoys the Pelicans. They do a great job, and we'll have a discussion with Michael about the Pelicans in just a couple minutes. Also, about halfway point of today's show, a little bit different than what we normally do with our panel. Former New Orleans City Councilman, former Vice President for the New Orleans Saints, and now the head of the National Basketball Players Retired Players Association, Arnie Felkow will join us on the program. We'll talk to Arnie about the festivities over the weekend here in New Orleans for the All-Star Game. We'll talk about the Retired Players Association, and we'll also get into his love for the city of New Orleans. Without further ado, let's get started, and we'll start off a little different than we normally do. We'll talk a little bit about the Saints, and just quickly, the Saints have terminated the contracts of Will Smith, Roman Harper, Jabari Greer, and they have decided not to re-sign Jonathan Vilma. Now, we've talked about that a lot on this program. We've talked a lot about it on my radio show. Of course, the Saints were somewhere between $12 and $15 million over the cap. I think we had Mike Trippett on the program a few weeks ago. He had kind of nailed it at about $14.6 million. The Saints now, with the cutting of those individuals, and of course not re-signing Vilma, will now be about $17 million. They're saving about $17 million against the 2014 cap, which means they'll be about $3 to $4 million under the cap now. But you can expect more moves to be happening within the next few weeks. Again, they need to sign Jimmy Graham to a long-term deal, although I really believe they're going to end up tagging him because of obviously him wanting a long-term deal and saying now that he wants to be paid among the top 5 wide receivers in the NFL. Don't think that's going to happen without a negotiation going on, and it'll probably be a drawn-out deal, much like we saw with Drew Brees. Also, again, Brian De La Puente is a possibility of bringing him back. He is a free agent. Zach Strief, I truly believe, will be one of the most coveted right tackles on the market. He will be tough to re-sign, even though he has said he wants to stay in New Orleans and finish his career in New Orleans. And of course, Malcolm Jenkins is a guy that, you know, a lot of the Saints fans love to hate, but he's a guy that ultimately kind of going into his prime, going into his 6th year now, the Saints may want to take a flyer on him. All these guys, De La Puente, Strief, and Jenkins, will have a chance to go on the open market, see what the market is going to bear for them, and then ultimately they'll be able to come back to the Saints, and we'll find out exactly what type of deal they can make with these guys or if they're going to move on. Speaking of moving on, so many changes for our NBA franchise here in New Orleans. Again, new ownership. New nickname, new colors, a new mascot, now a new makeover mascot with Pierre getting, I guess, a little bit less fierce. And even, again, the New Orleans Arena, now finally with naming rights after all these years. And, of course, it's a local company. Smoothie King is now has the naming rights to the old New Orleans Arena. It is now the Smoothie King Center. And, of course, that, along with a revamped roster, it's been a big change for New Orleans basketball fans as they follow now the Pelicans. Let's talk a little Pelicans basketball. We'll talk a little All-Star game as well. With my first guest. It is Michael McNamara of Bourbon Street Shots. And Michael, welcome to the program. Thanks for being with us, and really appreciate your time tonight.
No, it's good to be here, and like you said, a lot of changes, a lot of different things in the All-Star game back here. First time since 2008. It's going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be a lot. It really is. And you know, we were talking a little bit off the air. 2008, this was the first real event that New Orleans hosted post-Katrina. Right. The NBA, like the NCAA, and of course the NFL, made real promises to this city about bringing their major events back to New Orleans. And one of the things that we saw was the NBA and David Stern really pushing not only to be able to make sure this team came back from Oklahoma City, but of course making sure that they were here for that event. And especially coming off what happened in Las Vegas the year before, the city just wowed the NBA. And of course, now back, and I fully expect that they will walk away feeling the same exact way, that this is a great event city, and we're going to do a fine job this weekend.
Right. I mean, it's the perfect city to have an event like this, really. I mean, it's a perfect atmosphere. You have people that could come and experience everything that New Orleans has to offer. So I think it's perfect for the city, and I can't wait to see them even top what they did in 2008.
Yeah, and logistically, the ability to be for everything being walkable. It's why we're a great Super Bowl city. A lot of stuff going on at the convention center.
Right.
Obviously, a lot of the epicenter of everything that's going on in terms of All-Star Game will be what's happening at the Smoothie King Center with the Rising Stars Challenge and also Slam Dunk. You've got everything else, and then of course the All-Star Game culminating on Sunday. Before we get started, please tell the folks about your site. You guys have done a great job, really, over the last few years, first covering the Hornets, now covering the Pelicans. You've had a little bit of a name change as well, but if you're a basketball fan, you really got to check out Bourbon Street Shots.
Right, yeah. People might have known us more as Hornets 24/7, and obviously with the name change, we had to change that. So Bourbon Street Shots, I mean, for anybody who hasn't been to the site, it's really a site where we try to give something to every type of basketball fan, from casual fans all the way to the analytic geeks, which I'm one of those myself. I chart the points per possession and shot whatever. So we try to give a little bit to everybody, and as always, you know, ask them to voice their opinion, and really trying to build a huge community of smart and savvy Pelicans fans.
Well, you guys have done it. Again, kind of the go-to website for those of us in the media that want to bring on a guest that really can talk about the Pelicans in an intelligent way, and the NBA as well. Congratulations, you guys have done a great job.
Appreciate it.
Pelicans 23-29, kind of the mythical halfway part of the season, and. First of all, again, injuries have really hurt this team. There were a lot of great expectations about possibly challenging for the 8th spot in the West. Gosh, the West is so tough. When you look at where they are in terms of their record and what they would be doing if they were still in the Eastern Conference, you know, they would be ready to get into the playoffs, okay? But in the West, very, very tough. In the Southwest Division, very, very tough. Anderson has gone down. Looks like he will be gone down for the rest of the season. Drew Holiday, they're going to take their time bringing him back. They're talking about maybe him coming back sometime after the All-Star break. You can look at, again, losing Jason Smith for the season. That has hurt. He is now going to be in a contract year coming back next season. And then, of course, losing two of your other big players, and Anthony Davis missing some time. And again, you look at Tyreek Evans also missing time from time to time. First of all, how do you think these injuries have affected this team, and how do you think they've rebounded from these injuries?
Right. So, I mean, I think the biggest thing with the injuries is they've been so scattered. I mean, we saw Tyreek Evans and what this team could do with a full arsenal in the preseason. I mean, if people remember, they only lost one game, and history shows that if you lose, you know, one game or fewer in the preseason, those teams tend to make the playoffs. Even though, you know, it's something that we're not supposed to take wins and losses from. So Evans goes down in the preseason, but comes back. Ryan Anderson gets the injury immediately upon Evans' return, and then Davis with the hand. And so I think it's really been tough for those guys to pick up their roles. I mean, you see Monty Williams talking about the roles that they envisioned for these guys when they signed them to these contracts, and their roles are changing day by day. I mean, Tyreek Evans has to rebound more when Anthony Davis is out. He needs to shoot more when Ryan Anderson is out. So, you know, it's just been tough for these guys who were already new and already, you know, assuming new roles, to now have to keep morphing the role changes every day.
You know, I would agree with you, Michael. And I guess, and I've talked about it on my radio show. You and I have talked about it on my radio show as well. And on this television show as well, kind of a silver lining, if there is one, is, again, if you're going to be in a situation where you're not going to make the playoffs and you've got the youngest team in the NBA, you're probably going to be in a situation where you want to at least take a look at what you have on your bench. And they've been able to do that now. Right. You know, we've seen Austin Rivers kind of mature under fire here. Brian Roberts is playing pretty well. You look at times, Jeff Withey has proven that, you know, again, when he bulks up, when he gets some time under his belt, he may be a pretty decent backup center in the NBA. And you know, at times we've seen Darius Miller come in and play well, although his role has been kind of diminished. Anthony Morrow, with the signing of Luke Babbitt, looks like he's playing much better, has really kind of defined his role. If anything, we're kind of finding out what's happening with that bench.
Yeah, and I mean, I would say the only thing that's been tough is that this team wants to get out and run, and they wanted to get out and run with Drew Holiday, with Tyreek Evans, with Anthony Davis, and they're not able to do that now with their full arsenal of guys. You talk about Jeff Withey. Jeff Withey is a guy that they drafted or they traded for originally, thinking that he was going to be a big man who would run the paint. That's what he does well. He, you know, to get him started, he's not that quick. He's not a quick twitch guy. But as soon as he gets going, he really motors down the court, and you saw him do that at Kansas. So I think it's been tough for some of those guys. Austin Rivers is great in the open court, but all the injuries, it's hurt that too. Yes, they're getting more minutes, but they're getting minutes in a style that if we were to see the full complement and the full arsenal of Pelicans, they wouldn't be playing this way. They would be playing a lot faster. So it's good that they're getting minutes, but it would be ideal if they could get minutes in a situation that'll be similar to what it'll be when this team is good. Right.
You know, Withey was a guy that was talked about at the beginning of the season would maybe be in the D-League. And yet, again, he's been able to stick on the roster and getting some time. We'll talk about the big men in just a minute. Anthony Davis is the centerpiece of this franchise. Again, first-time All-Star, even though I felt he should have been voted in by the coaches originally. But, you know, can't say the fans. That's a popularity contest. Throw that out. But nevertheless, he's deserving. He's on this team. Seems to get better every game. And, you know, it's amazing when you watch him how, again, he is maturing under fire, leaps and bounds. Your thoughts on Anthony Davis and his maturation process?
I think it's phenomenal. I mean, it's not hyperbole. He is literally the best 20-year-old we've ever seen in this league. Statistically, almost every advanced or regular statistic shows it. And it's not only that, it was in the summer league that I really got excited. I was there for the summer league, and they had these open practices. And you saw Anthony Davis leading the practices. He wasn't just there supporting the guys. He was giving the speech before the practice, giving the speech afterwards. He was always around after the game. He was taking notes with Monty Williams, giving guys like Austin Rivers feedback after the game. So not only do you have a guy who is perhaps the most skilled 20-year-old we've seen in this league ever, or at least since LeBron, but you have a guy who has that maturity. You saw it in college when he was the #1 recruit in the entire nation, took the 5th most shots on his team. Right. So it's not only the on-the-court stuff that's impressive. This is a guy who off the court is as or more impressive. So, I mean, we're really seeing the beginning of something special.
That's high praise when you start thinking about some of the 20-year-olds in the history of this league. And, I mean, let's just off the top of our heads, I mean, you could talk about Moses Malone. Right. You can talk about, obviously, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James. And I would agree with you. I mean, when you look at how he has grown from year 1 to year 2, and it seemed, again, no one beats him down the floor. He's a guy that is constantly running, whether on the offensive end or the defensive end. Obviously, great shot blocker. I mean, a 20 and 10 guy, 3 blocks a game. He's been phenomenal. You know, I'm one that feels like that this team needs to run the offense through Anthony Davis. And I feel that they settle for jump shots too much when they should be really running the offense through him. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that would be ideal, is to run it through him. And this is the scary part. We just talked about how he's the most talented, and at least he produces more than any 20-year-old in NBA history. I would say he's about 20% of the way there. I mean, you look at him on his face-up drives, he always goes left. He has a little righty hook, but, you know, not really a developed post game. His jumper's good, but it's still going to take another step or two. It's amazing that I think we're seeing about 20% of what we're going to see. And honestly, we saw this with Durant, where they ran it through him early, and Durant really struggled. I mean, if you go back and look at those first 2 years, he struggled, but because he took so many shots, he learned, where he could be efficient on the court and where he can't, And in this season, I wouldn't say it's a lost season, but this team isn't making the playoffs. So, have Anthony take that step this year, and that seems to be what they've been doing the last couple of weeks, running the offense through him.
Michael McNamara of Bourbon Street Shots is our guest. 504-866-3200 is the phone number if you'd like to join the conversation. This is a live show, and we always welcome your comments or your questions. Defensively, Monty Williams has hung his hat on being a defensive coach. He's part of Team USA because of his defensive prowess. This team early in the season really wasn't playing much defense. It was really kind of Olay defense.
Right.
Nobody stopping anybody getting to the rim. Guys still trying to figure each other out, what their responsibilities were. They've done better over the last few weeks with the backups in. Your thoughts?
So, I poured through again, as I tell people, kind of a numbers geek, poured through the stats, and what was surprising was almost nothing has changed except for the end result. This is a team that had a defensive rating around 108, 109, which for those who don't follow that stuff, and I don't blame you, would be about 29th in the NBA. Over the last 12 games, they're top 5. And
top 5 in the NBA.
Top 5 in the entire NBA in defensive rating, about 100, a little over 101, which is right around where the Bulls hang their hat every year. And really, the defensive rebound percentage, the turnover percentage, nothing has changed. The only thing that has changed is the 3-point defense percentage. The 2-point defensive percentage is exactly the same. People are still getting in the rim. The foul percentage, if you want to look at where this team is hurting,
yes,
they put people on the line constantly.
Too much.
And they are free throws, so they're getting free point. But the 3-point defensive percentage has gone from about 36% allowed to 29%, which is a huge leap. They're giving up about 1.5 less made threes per game, and that's your entire difference. And the reason for that is the rotations. It's guys getting able to play together. People think that when you throw a bunch of basketball plays together, the hard part is the offensive end, but it's not. They've played pickup ball all their life. They've played with new guys. You figure out the offensive end quick. It's the defensive end where you have the different responsibilities in every system. This coach, when you were in high school, taught you this. And so now these guys are getting to play together, and the defensive rotations are just much better. You're not seeing the wide open threes anymore, and that's the sole reason now that this team is so much better.
The biggest problem, though, Michael, is these are a lot of guys that will be your backups next year.
Right.
A lot of the guys that you're counting on are not on the floor right now, and the hope is that you'll be able to see this kind of bleed over into next season when you are back to full strength. That's kind of the misnomer here when we kind of look at it. God, okay, these guys are playing better defense, but these are kind of the guys. These are guys that are not going to be really. If you're counting on those guys next year, you're not going to be in the playoffs.
Right. But I will say this: those guys who are coming back, that's the most efficient offensive unit in the NBA. Those 5, we called them the finishing 5, and those guys score at such a high clip that really the lack of the defense isn't going to hurt. So you could do what Chicago did a couple years ago, where they had this strong offensive first unit, and then when they put their defensive second unit in, they gave the guys a breather, and they just shut opposing teams down, and won it. Instead of trying to win that second unit battle 8-6, you win it 4-2. So, it's good to see these guys, being able to progress on the defensive end. If this team is healthy, I don't think we'll have to worry too much about defense, because that offense is just amazing.
But things do change in the playoffs. It's more of a half-court game where you really have to have some type of defensive prowess if you're going to move on. So it's something that I think that Monty Williams will still be pushing for as if he remains as head coach of the Pelicans going forward.
Yeah, and it's really just about playing smart defense. Like I said, this team can't foul, because that game does slow down. And when you start, racking up fouls, not only do you send that guy to the line at that time, but as we saw last night, Anthony Davis picks up 4 fouls. He's on the bench for a key stretch. Luckily, they're playing Milwaukee.
Yes.
But you can't get in foul trouble, and you can't be in the penalty early in quarters. We've seen too many times this year, 8-9 minutes left in a quarter, this team is already in the penalty. And you're right, that's not going to be able to work in the playoffs.
Another Achilles heel for this team over the last couple seasons has been the inability to close out games.
Right.
Whether they've had their first line guys in or the backups, they tend to let leads slip away. They tend not to be able to close out at the end of a game. Your thoughts on why?
I mean, it's basketball IQ, and I'm not trying to insult any of the players on the team saying that they, as individuals, have low IQs. But basketball IQ is going to grow with the years you play. You've said it's the youngest team in the league. How many times did we see Chris Paul just do the small things that eventually win a game? I can't remember many times this season I've seen the Pelicans get a 2-for-1 at the end of the quarter. And those little things add up. I mean, you're talking about 4 possessions over the course of a game. On average, a team will score about a point per possession. You're giving up 4 points by not utilizing something like a 2-for-1 strategy, which we always saw Chris Paul do when he was here.
Michael McNamara of Bourbon Street Shots, our guest, a little bit later on in the program. New Orleans owned, and I'll call him New Orleans owned because he loves this city and this is his adopted city. Former New Orleans City Councilman and former Vice President for the New Orleans Saints, Arnie Felkow, will join us. Of course, he is now President and CEO of the National Basketball Retired Players Association. He'll join us in our second half hour. To Steve in Mandeville. Steve, welcome. You're on Inside New Orleans Sports. Thanks for calling.
Yes, sir. My question is, how long do you think they hold on to Dell Demps and Monty Williams, being this is all their players, and they do not make the playoffs again? How long do you think Tom Benson will hold on to them?
Steve, thank you for the phone call. Michael, it's kind of been a theme throughout this season with the expectations of playoff basketball. And, of course, the injuries have kind of a built-in excuse now. From what I understand, the front office, Benson, seems to really like Monty Williams and Dell Demps, but at the end of the day, you can't look behind you if you're Tom Benson and see an empty arena. I mean, that's going to get you one way or the other. That's going to get you moving maybe in another direction. What are your thoughts on Monty, how he's performed, how he's kind of matured as a coach, and then we'll get to Dell. Do you think that he is the long-term answer here as far as head coach?
I mean, it's hard to say. I would say that the players love him. That's undeniable. I would say, obviously, ownership loves him. But, you know, we don't know if he could take that team to the next level. I think he did a really good job of taking a team just void of talent and making them play hard for 82 games, which is tough to do. You see a team like Milwaukee last night, and at some point, NBA players have pride. It's just hard to go through a season like that, and Monty really helped this team get through the rebuilding process. It's tough, though, because there are a lot of great coaches in the league, and I don't know how many times personally I leave a game or people that I talk to leave a game feeling that Monty wins that battle. Is he a guy that could take a team from good to great? We don't know that. We've seen a lot of transitional coaches in all-time great players' careers. I mean, do people know that Michael Jordan was originally coached by Doug Collins? Right. I mean, do people remember who Oklahoma City's coach was before Scott Brooks got there? So I don't know. Is Monty a transitional coach, but a guy who can't take Davis and this team to the next level? I really think he has up until about this time next year to show us that. Injuries or no injuries. This year, I think he gets a little bit of a pass, and I would say deservedly so. But I think this time next year, there will be a firm decision one way or the other.
What about Dell Demps? Now, Dell Demps has kind of built this team under fire. Again, tough having an owner like George Shinn that was cash poor, having to sell off draft choices, losing the cornerstone of your franchise in Chris Paul. Then you get in a situation where the NBA purchases the franchise. He's trying to make a deal to move Chris Paul. He wants to go with veterans. They go obviously with youth. He's put together this team in the offseason. This is his team. What do you think about Dell Demps? And what do you think about what he's been able to do during the season as well, reaching into Europe, grabbing players to be able to help them considering the injuries?
I mean, I think the one thing that we know for sure is he's active. He is an active GM, and that's what fans tend to like. I mean, fans a lot of time love when they could win the press conference. It's good to win games, but fans also get excited about that initial press conference. And Dell Demps has made moves that, he has his own philosophy, and that's what I respect. Last year, everybody was just hoarding these 2014 picks. Everybody said it was going to be the greatest draft in 20 years, and let's, try to hoard the picks. Nobody's going to trade them. Dell Demps zigged while everybody else zagged, and he went out and he got an all-star caliber player, an actual all-star player, in Drew Holiday for, a pick in what some say was one of the worst drafts in the last 15, 20 years, and, a pick from this mythical 2014 draft that we're all of a sudden seeing is not going to be as good as people were thinking. Right. So I at least respect that he has his own philosophy. We've never seen a superstar surrounded by 23 to 25-year-old quasi-stars. I mean, usually when you get a centerpiece like Anthony Davis, you build really slowly through the draft, or you already have veterans in place like Duncan had with David Robinson. We've never, ever seen this strategy, so I really respect that Demps went out and did something a different way. But again, by this point next year, we're going to see if it was something that's going to blow up in his face or if his vision was correct.
So really, in essence, both guys kind of still on the hot seat when you look at going into next season.
I think so. I mean, I think this team expected for about 30 games to have problems with the pieces,
yes,
meshing together.
Right.
And then after that, they were expecting to make a playoff run or at least be a very good team over the second half of the year. Never really got that opportunity, but we have this small sample size. We have these 12 games where all five of those guys were healthy. And the team was 7-5, didn't really beat any good teams, but was competitive in those losses. If people remember, the game at Portland came down to the wire.
Sure.
The game at Houston. So this was a really competitive playoff caliber team when everybody was healthy. And it's hard to just look at a 12-game sample size, but you saw what this team could be in that stretch. And I think that Benson would give them one more chance to have all those guys together and evaluate on that, as opposed to evaluating how Morrow and Withy and Wood played this year.
Not a lot of patience when it comes to NBA owners. I mean, honestly. I mean, a little bit different than maybe the NFL. You see guys that, again, some of them that have winning records that go to the playoffs, they get released, much like we saw in Memphis a season ago. You see what just happened recently in Detroit with Mo Cheeks. So, again, it really depends on the ownership and where they are. Right now, Benson at least seems like he's got some confidence in both of those guys. When we first started the season, one of the things that I really was worried about was the lack of rim protectors. I called it the donut syndrome. Basically really no center on this team that could really block shots, that could be maybe the answer at the 5. Now, I'm of the opinion down the line, Anthony Davis will be a center. Right. Kind of like what we've seen with Tim Duncan, where he kind of started out at the 4 and morphed into the 5. As he gets bigger, as he gets stronger, he will be the center of the future. But Demps has brought in a couple guys. Alexis Agensa has played pretty well in spots, had a great game last night against Milwaukee. And Stiesma has been injured, but at times can come in and at least can be a rim protector. Withy, as we mentioned earlier, is a guy that, again, when he bulks up, maybe could be that backup center that can work, especially in a system where you're going to run the basketball a lot. Right. Your thoughts on the 5 position?
I think it's a position that you need all of the elements around Anthony Davis. I can't say whether he is a 4 or a 5. I agree with you on the Duncan. A lot of people make comparisons to Garnett. I've personally always said David Robinson. And people shake their head at David Robinson because they remember 25, 26-year-old David Robinson when he came into the league. 20-year-old David Robinson at Navy was as skinny as Anthony Davis, not nearly as skilled. I've talked to people around the league, and they've said that they expect Davis to be a better player than David Robinson, which just blows my mind. I mean, he was probably one of my favorite players in the 90s. So I definitely see him at the 5. I do think he could play with other centers. I think Agensa is probably the best complement just because he at least has the threat of going out to 16 feet and hitting a jump shot. So I think short term, a lot what you saw with Dwight Howard in Orlando, remember that they had Darko Milicic in order to give Howard some time. Monty doesn't like Anthony Davis's body being worn down by other big men. So I think you could see a similar situation to that. I think 2 or 3 years from now, he's a full-time center. That's where he's finishing games at right now. And I think it's more about putting complementing pieces around him. If you're going to have him in with a Withy type, you better have 3 shooters on the floor. You can't have an Aminu on the floor. Right. So it's about those other 3 guys he'll be on the court with too.
You lead me to my next question. Al-Farouq Aminu in the last year of his deal, growing at times, but still seems to be stagnated at times. If this team is to move forward to be a playoff contender, they've got to get better at the 3.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because of the Ryan Anderson dynamic. Ryan Anderson probably plays more like you would expect a small forward to play on the offensive end. So what teams do when Aminu is in the game is Ryan Anderson, will be on the perimeter. They'll put their small forward on Ryan Anderson, which hurts him because the whole reason you want a stretch power forward, is because you want him to be able to pull other big guys out of the paint, make them do something they're not used to doing, running around the perimeter through screens. So when Aminu's on the court, teams just switch that, and Aminu can't take advantage of the power forward covering him. So if Ryan Anderson's going to be on this team, and I think he should be, I mean, could you imagine pairing Ryan Anderson with David Robinson in his prime?
Yes.
I mean, so that's an ideal player.
Look at what he cost the franchise.
Right.
I mean, he is a bargain at $8 million a year.
And even when his contract's up, I mean, guys like him, they don't get the max type contracts. So he's always going to be a bargain. So yeah, in Aminu's place, if you have somebody that's at least quick enough, if teams try to do that, to drive past opposing power forwards, which about 99% of small forwards in the league are, and is also capable to sit on the weak side and actually have a defender respect him because he could take a jump shot. I think that offense that we talked about, that's already amazing, just goes to another level.
The addition of Luke Babbitt. I mean, again, another guy that Demps had to go to Europe to get, much like Agenza. He has come in, struggled at times in Portland, was picked up by no one in the NBA, had to go play in Russia. What do you think about Babbitt and how he will do this year, how he's done it so far, and is he part of the future of this team?
I mean, they do have a second-year option on him, so they could bring him back next year at about a minimum salary. I think Luke Babbitt, the idea of Luke Babbitt is very impactful for this team, just because, I mean, if you watch a game, even if Luke Babbitt never touches the ball, and in his first game he only made one shot,
right,
but he had a huge impact because, like I said earlier with Aminu, the guy covering Aminu just doesn't even bother, even standing near him or defending him on that end. Luke Babbitt you have to respect. So he's opening up these lanes for everybody else on that side of the court. So, having a guy like that, and in case Ryan Anderson goes down again, I mean, herniated disc, that's something that could pop up, flare up, affect you at any time. So to have a poor man's version of him on the roster will allow you to play the same type of basketball. And I think that's important. I think that's where this team really struggled, is when a guy went down, there's nobody who could replicate what Tyreke Evans does. There's nobody on this roster who could replicate what Ryan Anderson does. So to have a poor man's version of him on the roster for $1 million, I mean, I think it's a very smart move, and Dell seems to, the small moves he hits out of the park.
Right. Pierre Jackson is in the D-League, and of course he is property of the New Orleans Pelicans. Fans have been clamoring for him to be called up.
Right.
There's a reason why this team has not called him up, right?
Right, yeah. So I'll get into this. I mean, I know it's something you want to see, the excitement, you want to see the energy, and that guy provides both. Also, one of the best interviews I've ever had in Summer League. So people are really going to love him down here. Part of his family's actually from down here. His mother's from here. So it's just a situation where essentially Dell Demps originally drafted him in order to have a rookie for next year, because they don't have a pick next year. So the idea was to stash him away and then basically bring him in as a rookie. The way that the contracts work is, as soon as Pierre Jackson comes, his rookie contract gets started.
The clock starts on it.
The clock starts on it, and the second round picks, you have them for about 3 or 4 years, and then if they pan out, you look at a guy like Isaiah Thomas in Sacramento. If they pan out, you really have to play him or pay them. So essentially what they're doing is redshirting him this year for, to put it in college football or college basketball terms. The clock won't start. Also, his contract will only be about $450,000 next year, as opposed to $900,000. So it's a money thing. And then you have guys in Roberts and Rivers who have guaranteed contracts. And if Pierre's here, is he even going to play over those guys anyway? So why would you start the clock on a valuable asset like that? I mean, even for trade purposes, he would be more valuable if the clock hasn't started on him than if it has.
And Roberts in the last year of his deal as well. So there will be at least some movement there on a decision going forward whether Jackson moves into his role or not. Trade rumors still abound about Eric Gordon. Again, the trading deadline right around the corner. A lot of chatter out there about Gordon being moved. He's definitely being showcased right now. There's no doubt about that. Is Eric Gordon with his team after the trade deadline?
Wow. I'm going to say yes, only because, I mean, it's really hard to move a guy on that salary. I mean, I feel like a lot of people.
$29 million over the next 2 years.
29 over the next 2 years after this one. He does have an opt-out in that fourth year.
But you know he's not opting out of $15 million.
See, I go the other way. I mean, we've said the same thing about players like Richard Jefferson in the past, Gerald Wallace, and they opt out of big deals in the final year in order to get the multi-year extension. And think about this from Eric Gordon's point of view. So the last time you were a free agent, you play 9 games in that season, and then you come out, and not only does one team offer you a maximum contract, but another team agrees to match it.
Yes.
So you played 9 games and 2 teams were willing to give you a maximum contract. I would think that, at least in his mind, he thinks that could happen again. So, but either way, it's just going to be hard to move a guy who, paying him about $15 million a year, can't really criticize much of his game other than the salary.
Yes.
If he's getting paid $8-9 million a year, he's a valuable asset, and we love him. But he is the highest paid player on this team, and probably, when healthy, the 3rd or 4th best player on this team. So just from a financial standpoint, he's going to be a hard guy to move unless a team sees him as the final piece to a championship puzzle, or a team like Charlotte, who is dying to make the playoffs, is a half a game worse than us, but somehow 8th in the East right now, and see him as a guy who could get their fans excited again.
I would agree. Michael, thanks for being with us tonight. Certainly appreciate it. Love what you guys are doing at Bourbon Street Shots, and look forward to having you back on the radio show and, of course, on this television show as well.
All right, Eric, thank
Michael
you so much.
McNamara of Bourbon Street Shots. Again, they do a great job. Check out that website. We'll take a break. When we come back, Arnie Felkow will join us, of course, President and CEO of the NBA Retired Players Association. We'll get into that. We'll talk a little bit about All-Star festivities this weekend and more. Stay tuned. You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher.
Corporation and Natels Air Conditioning and Heating, a proud sponsor of the St. Jude Dream Home.
My name's Reggie. Just recently, my wife and I took in our sister's children. We already had 4, so I went from becoming a family man to a man with a bigger family. And you can't eat love, so I don't know how I'm going to feed them tonight. How was that, Reggie?
I think I look more like Denzel.
That's cold, man.
Play a role in ending hunger. Visit feedingamerica.org/hunger and find your local food bank.
Packers, Vikings, Packers, Vikings, Vikings.
Red State, Blue State, Vegan,
Carnivore.
We come from different places.
Uptown, Downtown,
Optimal. We come to different conclusions. But when we live united, we create real, lasting change in the building blocks of life. The education, income, and health of our communities, our families, even the person next to us.
Live united.
Real change won't happen without you. So give, advocate, volunteer, live united. Sign up at liveunited.org.
You're watching WLAE, New Orleans Public Television. Find us on Cox Channel 14, Charter Channel 11 and 711, AT&T Channel 32 and 1032, Dish TV, DirecTV, and over-the-air broadcast on Channel 32.
You know what?
What?
Since I got adopted, I've learned a lot about these humans.
I know. I mean, check out these cute flirt city over here.
Yeah, I noticed that. It looks like my human is definitely into your human.
Oh, look! I'm just getting his number.
Nice.
Your human's got some sweet moves.
Takes after his dog. Oh, look, they're doing that thing where they put their arms around each other.
She kicked up a leg. It's like in the movies.
That's awesome. Looks like we're going to be hanging out a little bit more.
Hi, we're Ola High, and you're watching WLAE TV.
In the search for beautiful people, music that moves, and real culture, America, there's only one LA Coast. Gold Coast, Louisiana, delivers the treasures of the Gulf, fresh to you. I think we need a bigger boat. Sunday at 8:30 p.m. on LA.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Each and every Thursday night, 6 p.m., our live broadcast right here on WLAE TV. Of course, if you missed the broadcast on Thursdays, you can always check us out on Friday nights at 10 p.m. right here on WLAE and, of course, on Pelican Sports Television in New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and Lafayette. I want to thank Michael McNamara of Bourbon Street Shots for joining us. And we got a little lanyard for you tonight. You know, we like to throw some tickets out to you every now and then. You're a baseball fan, you love Tulane, you love UNO. We've got the opportunity for you to be able to get a pair of tickets for either the Tulane-UNO baseball game or Tulane and Arkansas Pine Bluff. You can call us at 866-3200. Let my guys in the back know which game you'd like to go to, and we'd love to be able to have you have the opportunity to enjoy some Tulane baseball on us. Joining us on the program now is a good friend of mine and a great friend of New Orleans. Really has a great love for this city and has done so much for us. New Orleans own, and I will call him New Orleans own because he may not be New Orleans born, but he's definitely New Orleans certified. Arnie Felkow joins us. Arnie, welcome to the program. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Eric. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, Arnie, first of all, again, welcome back home. And, we'll get into your love for the city in a moment, but you are now the president and CEO of the NBRPA. If you would kind of tell the folks a little bit about what that organization is and what your role is.
Sure. The NBRPA is the National Basketball Retired Players Association, and we're basically the alumni association for pro basketball. Members from the NBA, ABA, Globetrotters, and WNBA. We have almost 700 members from all over the world, really. And anybody that played pro basketball is eligible to become part of this organization. Been around 21 years, founded by Oscar Robertson, Dave DeBusschere, people of that ilk. Right. Great organization, and we really do two things. We help transition former ball players to a successful life after the game, which takes on a myriad of things. And second is we do a lot of community work. We do goodwill missions across the globe. We do youth basketball clinics in the inner cities. We take our guys and we really use that asset, to make good things happen around the country and the world.
Now, one of the things that you guys have done, and before we got to get that, you got quite a Louisiana flavor involved in that. I don't think people realize how many pro basketball players have come out of the state of Louisiana. They think football and the NFL, et cetera, but there is a real New Orleans and Louisiana flavor with your organization.
Absolutely. I mean, you see some incredible names. Karl Malone. Bill Russell, huge names, but guys that are from New Orleans that have come out of the neighborhood.
Right.
Aldridge Ricasner, right. Robert Pack, Aaron James, guys like that. Bruce Seals is here this weekend, played at Xavier.
Yes.
Just so many guys. Avery Johnson was with us all day today at different events. Look, Louisiana from an athletic standpoint is phenomenal. The football, basketball, baseball, almost any sport. So it's a very rich, area for athletics.
Since you've taken over the organization, you have not forgotten your adopted hometown. The last time that you guys were in, you have adopted a playground. You've done a lot for Nord. Talk about some of the things that your organization has done in giving back to our city post-Katrina.
Well, I think it's very important for us to do that, not only in New Orleans, but elsewhere across the country. And we've made it a real point, in New Orleans specifically, to give back in any way that we can. We've kind of adopted a playground in the lower Ninth Ward, Oliver Bush. If you go out there, you'll see 3 basketball courts with logos of the NBA, the retired players, and the union. That never happens, to get all 3 together and agreeing on that type of project. It's phenomenal. We have done a couple basketball clinics there. We're going to be doing a really big one this weekend. Saturday, Oliver Bush from 12 to 4 o'clock. We'll have a lot of our guys there, so the community should definitely come out. We go to hospitals. We're going to Children's Hospital. We just finished, just a couple hours ago, a clinic on the West Bank with the military at Federal City. So it's really important. And look, for me, it's an easy thing.
Yes.
I mean, I love New Orleans. I mean, this is my home, will always be my home. And, anytime we could ever get back to this great city, we're going to do it.
Well, I'll tell you what, exciting weekend. We think back to 2008, and of course you were on the city council then. The NBA, as well as the NFL, and of course the NCAA, promised New Orleans that they would bring their big events to this city. NBA was kind of the first one with the All-Star Game, as I've talked about before on this show and on my radio show. We're coming off, again, we was kind of a debacle in Las Vegas, where again people really walked away with a bad taste in their mouth. They come to New Orleans, and we put on quite a show. I really expect the same type of situation here this weekend. You've been around the vibe of what's going on. Give us the feel of what's happening in the city with all the all-star folks that are coming in, all the people from the NBA that are coming in to grace our city.
Oh, people are so excited. I've been in the hotel all day, you know, with our members that are starting to come in from around the country, and they've already ventured out into the city, and they come back and say, God, this is a great place to be. You know, we're happy the All-Star Game's here. You know, the difference is in 2008, it was a different time. Candidly, you know, it was a question, could New Orleans after Katrina, or could any city after a Katrina put on a major event like that? And not only did we do it, we did it, I believe, the best All-Star the NBA has ever seen.
Yes.
And it was, if you remember back 6 years ago, it was all theme New Orleans, the music of the pregame and the halftime. You know, this weekend's going to have a lot of New Orleans and Louisiana flavor as well. Can't give out too much because there's a couple special things I know about, but it's going to have that same feeling. And the NBA loves being here. The NFL loves being here. And I saw very gratifying, I saw a press conference with the mayor and Mr. Benson and Sports Foundation, and they're already talking about the next NBA All-Star Game. So that's pretty special. I mean, there's no city in America better able to host big-time events than New Orleans.
And you've been an ambassador for this city, not in your capacity, obviously, with the organization you're with now, in your capacity when you're with the New Orleans Saints, and also, obviously, on the city council as well. What are you hearing from people around the country when they talk about New Orleans as a big event city?
I think to a person, I think people recognize that there's no better place. I mean, where could you find a city where literally within 6 blocks you have all of the hotels, all the restaurants, the playing venues? Compare that with some of the other places that, you know, you talk Las Vegas.
Yes.
You know, not to denigrate anybody, but we were in Houston last year. I mean, it took an hour, 2 hours to get between venues because it's so spread out. New Orleans has that special quality because of the closeness of everything. Plus, you know, the passion, the affinity for sports that this city has. Again, nobody could question that, you know, that the ability of this city to do it the best in the country.
504-866-3200, 504-866-3200. Our guest, Arnie Felkow. Of course, we're talking a little bit about the All-Star Weekend here in New Orleans. And Arnie, before we kind of jump into some other subjects, you've got a lot of events that are happening with the NBRPA. Some of those events are free and open to the public. Some, obviously, you need a ticket package to get there. But part of the ticket packages that you're putting out right now, part of the proceeds are going to NORD. If you would, tell the folks a little bit about some of the events that you and your guys will be involved in. And of course, if folks are listening out there right now, watching right now, maybe they would like to get involved in some of these events, and there's a way to get involved and to give back to our city as well.
Sure. Let me quickly run a couple free events that people should come out to. It'd be fun. Number one, the Lower Ninth Ward again on Saturday, 12 to 4 o'clock, Oliver Bush. Really a lot of fun. Free music, food, players will all be out there. And then we're based at the Marriott. We're on the second floor of the Marriott. Anybody that wants to come on up there. I mean, we have a big lounge with sofas and televisions, and a lot of our players hang out there. And if you're just looking to meet a former player, maybe somebody you followed when you were a kid, it's a lot of fun to do that. And they like it too. Right. They like being remembered.
Sure.
So it's fun. So come do that.
Get some autographs.
Get some autographs. Pictures. Bring a basketball. You know, whatever it might be. If you're looking to get a little bit more inside with us, we are selling an all-access pass for the weekend. It's $1,000. It covers 2 people, and it gets you into a lot of the stuff, including a very big party Saturday night at Harrah's. All the food you can eat, all the drinks you can drink, and you get to basically network and schmooze with at least 100 legends of basketball. Yes. So if you're interested in that, because the time is so close right now, I'll throw out my cell, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Feel free to call me on cell. I'm going to answer. It's 917-621-6422. And we could take your order and go from there. But even if you can't do that, I urge people, come out to the free events and just say hello to the players.
Personally, you continue to get back to this city. I had a great affinity for your father, who passed recently. You're putting together a scholarship for some kids that come out of New Orleans. Please talk about that scholarship.
Thank you. Thank you, Eric. Yeah, my dad was a sports person.
Oh, he really was.
He loved it, and he loved New Orleans.
Yes.
And he would He bought. They lived in Arizona, but he bought the DirecTV package every Sunday, and he never followed the New Orleans Saints. Every Sunday, he religiously. And then at about 3:01, he'd call me and say, "How did we miss that field goal? Why was it?" He loved New Orleans, and in his honor, from past a few years ago, we're going to do two $2,000 scholarships every year. Hopefully, keep this going forever.
Yes.
And the two organizations that are administering it are Each One Save One, which is a mentoring program, fine mentoring program in the city, and the new Urban Youth Academy, the Major League Baseball Youth Academy. So within the next couple months, you'll hear more about this. The application's almost ready. They'll probably announce it in early spring and do the awards in early summer. And every year, we're going to give two New Orleans youth two $2,000 scholarships to go to college.
That's fantastic, Arnie. It really is. Arnie, I know we've become such great friends over these years, and I know your love for this city, and I know why you came back to this city after Katrina, why you got into public service. Talk a little bit about your love for this city, and you know, it's funny, if you know anything about, and I've talked about this on my radio show, if you know anything about the Felkows, on a Sunday, they're kind of got a splits allegiance during the football season. All the kids got their Saints garb on, and of course, this Green Bay Packer lover, he's got his Green Bay Packers garb on, and talk a little bit about how your children have fallen in love and how you and Sue have fallen in love with this city.
Yeah, I mean, it is a fun Sunday in the Felkow household because our kids are all in black and gold. They have found every Saints bar in Chicago, and there's some good ones. And so they religiously, they live and die with the Saints and the Pelicans as well also. We were lucky. I could have had a job in any team in sports, any city. It just happened to be New Orleans. And I will always be appreciative to Mr. Benson for that opportunity. We fell in love with the city. I mean, within months, we said, this is the greatest place we've ever lived. And obviously, we all experienced an incredible trauma with Katrina.
Yes.
We all lived through it.
Yes.
We have survived it and moved on and thrived. And my love for this city is as strong as it ever has been. You and I have talked. If there is an opportunity down the road, you may see the Felkows back in New Orleans because this is home. The Midwest may be where I was born and raised.
Right.
New Orleans is home.
Yes. And again, you could have left the city and got involved in professional sports, but you chose public service. What drew you to get involved in a leadership role after Katrina?
Two things, the passion and love for the city. And second, I looked at the city and I looked at its condition and I said, this city has to be successful, and it can be successful. And there was a lot of talk of new people running that had a vision for this city of making it better, keeping all of the great things about New Orleans,
yes,
but then working really hard on the things that had kept the city back. And it was that drive and that passion that led me to run for office. I was incredibly privileged to be elected in 2006. It was not an easy election, but the citizens gave me that trust and then reelected me in 2010. And it was, I will say, no matter what sports job or any other position I ever hold, that 6 years in public service will be by far the most important time of my life.
Yeah, and believe me, New Orleans loves you for it, still today. I mean, I hear it on my radio show all the time. People stop me on the street that know of our relationship, and they're always asking me, when's Arnie coming back home?
Yeah, well,
and again, that's a big thing for, again, a guy that never grew up here, but obviously the people of this city have a true love for you. Think about, and again, you've had your dream job. You've got another dream job. Obviously, Vice President of the New Orleans Saints was a dream job for you. Looking into your future, if you could think of a dream job that you'd like to have, is there one? Is there something that you'd like to do as you look forward in your life? I mean, I know you're very happy with what you're doing now, but talk about it.
Yeah, I really am very happy. This is as fun a job as I've ever had. And it's wonderful to work with the players because I'm combining sports and really service. I mean, it's a little bit of a combination of what I do with the Saints and government. Is there one dream job out there that if I could say, I got maybe a few more years left, before there is one. And you and I have talked about it. I'm not going to divulge it publicly.
Right.
It has some New Orleans connections to it. And, who knows, okay? In life, you never know. The thought of being in New Orleans 15 years ago was as far removed as possible. So you don't close doors. You don't burn bridges. I can only say as honestly as I can, we just love the city.
You'd love to come back home.
We would love to come home. But if it doesn't happen, I will be fine with that. Right. I will be satisfied. And if it does happen, we'll open some bottles of champagne and really celebrate.
You better believe it. NBA had a little bit of a transition now. You got to know David Stern, obviously the former commissioner of the NBA. One of the reasons why the Pelicans are here now. Again, David Stern really kind of forcing George Shin's hand, making him move this team back to New Orleans after he was in Oklahoma City. Of course, now kind of a transition into Adam Silver. He's been in the league for 22 years, kind of the right hand of David Stern. First of all, talk a little bit about David Stern and what he meant to the NBA, what he's meant to New Orleans, and of course now your conversation with Adam Silver, what type of commissioner you think he will be?
Let me broaden my answer a little bit. I think New Orleans has been blessed to have commissioners in both the NBA and the NFL that have been remarkable after Katrina.
Yes.
Now, again, I know all of the angst with Bountygate and those and some of the feelings that people had towards Commissioner Goodell, but I think it's important to understand that after Katrina, had it not been for Commissioner Stern in basketball and Commissioner Tagliabue and now Goodell in football,
agreed,
we could very well not have these teams in the city of New Orleans. And these men have been incredible. They are men of integrity, all three of them. From the basketball side, David Stern is phenomenal. He took a league 25, 30 years ago that was in trouble and not anywhere close to where the league is today. I think they had maybe 9 teams and there were a lot of problems in the league. Now look at what he's developed.
Yes.
It is international. It's only going to get bigger international because he's going to stay with that. That's going to be his next phase in life.
That's his next phase.
That's
right?
his next
Yes.
phase. And Commissioner Silver is going to be equally as good. He's been the right-hand person for Commissioner Stern for years, and he's going to be great. And I have to say, I have to give a personal thanks to Commissioner Stern because he has been a personal friend during my career. I was with the CBA 20 years ago.
A lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah, I started my sports career in basketball.
Yes.
The CBA back then, before Isaiah Thomas bought it, was a developmental league for the NBA.
Right.
And the
which
commissioner,
is now the NBA D League.
Which is now the NBA D League.
Right.
And the commissioner was a great friend then, a great mentor. Stayed with that when this opportunity came, and I'll always be indebted to him.
Right. Arnie, I've often said that if Commissioner Stern would have been the commissioner instead of Lawrence O'Brien back when the Jazz were here, that more than likely the Jazz would still be in New Orleans. Now they spent more time in Utah, in Salt Lake City, than they ever spent in the 5 years they were in New Orleans. But again, there's a little misnomer out there of people that think that New Orleans did not support the Jazz. New Orleans did support the Jazz. I mean, again, it was there were some taxing issues that were involved in the fact that the Jazz ended up leaving and moving to Utah. But I've always said that a strong commissioner like Stern, if he would have been in place, more than likely, instead of the Pelicans, instead of the Hornets, well, instead of maybe flirting with the Timberwolves as we did way back when, that the Jazz probably would have stayed here. He's that type of commissioner.
He is, and I think you could just look at recent history. Look at Sacramento. I mean, Sacramento, I think most people would have said a couple of years ago was gone. Okay, that the team was going to probably be in Seattle or somewhere else.
Yes.
And Mayor Johnson, Kevin Johnson, who's one of my members, by the way, phenomenal mayor of a city of Sacramento, said, I'm going to make sure this team does not leave. And Commissioner Stern stood right behind him and said, if you can deliver on what you're saying, I, the commissioner, will not move that team. And, I think the Kings are going to they have been successful in the past. They're going to be phenomenal with their new facility. And I think it shows David Stern's commitment to cities. And I know he loves New Orleans.
Yes.
He looks at this and says, not just because of Katrina.
Agreed.
I think he looks at some of the things I look at and sees the people, the passion, and says, how can we not have our league in this great city?
We'll throw a little softball to you. It's going to be an easy one, but again, we know each other.
This will be a first. This will be a first.
This will be a first. There's no doubt. It is a first. I'll tell you that right now. What do you love? What have you loved? What do you love about this city more than anything else? When you think of New Orleans, what do you think about?
The people. I could tell you in almost any city in America, having gone through Katrina, you would not be sitting here, 9 years later, okay, a little less than 9 years later, you would not be sitting here and have what has happened in New Orleans. I mean, we lost a lot of people. They lost their lives. We had people that never came back, and that's a shame, all of that. But when you look at what's happened and the percentage of people that have come back and the percentage of people that have rebuilt and done their lives over, I mean, Eric, you and I know because I came back in the late fall of 2005. You couldn't even maneuver around the city. And I used to go to these little community meetings in churches or schools. There might be 8 people. And then the next time there would be 30. They were planning their future. And it was just amazing. And that's why the Saints were so important because people had lost everything. money, homes,
Yes.
business, property, yet they held on to the one thing. And the most remarkable story, Jeff Duncan wrote a book on it, most remarkable story in the history of sports is the 2006 season, not because they got a great quarterback,
That's right.
but before the season started and they knew they were going to be good, the New Orleans fans regionally said, this is our team, we're never going to lose it, and the season ticket base went ballooned to incredible numbers because of that. At a time when people
sellouts since then.
Sellouts since then.
Yes.
Think about that. That doesn't happen in other places. And that's why this team will always be here, will always be successful because of the fan base.
No doubt. Well, Arnie, we miss you desperately, and we hope that very soon you'll be back home in New Orleans where you belong.
Thanks, Eric.
Thanks for being with us, and thanks
Pleasure.
for all you do for our city, even today in your new capacity.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, there is a rebroadcast of this show each and every Friday night here on WLAE at 10 o'clock, and also on Pelican Sports Television. You can see that in New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and Lafayette. Of course, don't forget also, you can catch me on the radio, 990 AM WGSO. Of course, that is each and every weekday from 11 a.m. until 1 p.m. You can also check me out on the web at ericasher.com. If you missed any of the previous episodes of this program or any of my podcasts, you can check that out at ericasher.com. Special thanks to our guests, Michael McNamara of Bourbon Street Shots, and of course, Arnie Felkow. And also want to thank the production staff here at WLE, along with Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Donovan Joseph, Kenny Juneau, and of course, my producer-director, William Hill. For Arnie Felkow, my name is Eric Asher. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you right back here next Thursday night, 6 o'clock here on WLE. Good evening.
Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by the Union Capital Corporation and Natels Air Conditioning and Heating, a proud sponsor of the St. Jude Dream Home.